When cheap turns dangerous, the hidden cost of China's industrial race. What happens when a nation focuses so intensely on producing faster, bigger, and cheaper that it begins to undermine its own system? At first glance, the results seem miraculous. Factories run day and night, cities grow at breakneck speed, and products become more affordable than ever. The world marvels at the efficiency, and consumers reap the benefits. Yet beneath this dazzling facade lies a fragile reality. The relentless pursuit of low costs can weaken the very foundation of growth. China's experience provides a striking illustration of this hidden price. The transformation began in 1978. Deng Xiaoping, addressing the Communist Party, declared that wealth was not shameful, it was patriotic. This simple but revolutionary statement changed the trajectory of the Chinese economy. Farmers became small business owners, rural villages turned into production hubs, and foreign investors flocked to take advantage of a vast pool of inexpensive labor. China had opened its doors to rapid industrialization. Special economic zones, SEZs, were established as experimental areas to attract foreign investment through looser regulations and fewer bureaucratic hurdles. Shenzhen, once a small fishing town of just 30,000 residents, transformed into a thriving metropolis within a few decades. Its success became a blueprint for other regions. Cities and provinces competed to replicate the model, building infrastructure, roads, power plants, industrial parks, to lure more factories. The message was simple: produce more, export more, grow faster. By the early 2000s, China had moved beyond mere growth. It dominated global supply chains. Steel, coal, copper, electronics, anything could be labeled "made in China." Western companies struggled to compete with the scale and speed of production. China's model relied on ruthless efficiency, turning human labor into a powerful engine of economic output. The result was a flood of affordable goods worldwide. T-shirts for a few dollars, smartphones for a fraction of their original cost, a seemingly endless supply of consumer products. However, cracks began to appear. The very principle that made China competitive, producing at the lowest cost, became a liability. Local governments reduced land prices, cut taxes, and encouraged low wages. Companies slashed profit margins and, at times, quality, all to maintain growth. Rural workers poured into cities, enduring long hours for minimal pay. Production became obsessive. While consumers benefited in the short term, the internal balance of the system weakened. By the mid-2010s, the strain was evident. China's steel output alone surpassed the rest of the world combined. Factories churned out goods faster than markets could absorb them. Prices began to drop, not due to efficiency or innovation, but sheer overproduction. Companies did not reduce output when profits fell. They increased it, hoping volume would compensate. It rarely worked. Economists refer to this phenomenon as industrial involution. Traditionally, involution described people working harder for diminishing rewards. In modern China, it applies to entire industries, sectors producing more with shrinking profit margins. Solar panels, electric vehicles, and batteries became particularly competitive arenas. Dozens of companies, often state-backed, flooded the market with identical products, driving prices down. In this system, production equals legitimacy. To halt output is to lose face. The consequences are profound. Prices drop, wages stagnate, and profits vanish. Consumers may enjoy short-term savings, but the economy erodes from within. Efficiency consumes itself. Production replaces purpose. What began as a race for innovation has turned into a race to the bottom. For instance, Chinese solar panels often sell below cost, electric vehicles accumulate unsold in parking lots, and tech companies compete fiercely in shrinking domestic markets. Even with record exports, industrial profits fell over 20% in 2024. When price is the only competition, the system turns self-destructive. China has faced similar challenges before. In the 2000s, overproduction in coal and steel forced government intervention. Mines closed, factories merged, and hundreds of thousands lost jobs. These short-term sacrifices prevented long-term collapse. Today, the scale is much larger. Factories close only when political priorities allow, not when profit dictates. Motion, not efficiency, defines success. Behind closed doors, officials are aware of falling wages, declining profits, and growing debt. Publicly, the message is consistent. Maintain growth, keep producing, and preserve the appearance of progress. In China, growth is a measure of legitimacy. The problem extends to strategic sectors as well. China deliberately floods global markets with cheap solar panels, batteries, and EVs to dominate future industries. Western competitors, constrained by short-term profits and shareholder demands, cannot match this strategy. Once global supply chains rely on Chinese production, China gains control over pricing, production, and technology. The plan is long-term. Short-term losses are acceptable if they guarantee a future monopoly. Yet this strategy carries risk. Empires cannot sustain perpetual losses. The system depends on constant activity. Factories operate to service debt. Banks extend loans to keep balance sheets stable. Provinces build more industrial zones to maintain employment. Any disruption threatens the fragile balance. Momentum replaces purpose. Production becomes identity. China's social contract illustrates this paradox. Previously, growth increased income and living standards. Today, it primarily produces cheaper goods, leaving wages stagnant and domestic consumption weak. Deflation spreads abroad, affecting global economies. Western factories fail to compete, and emerging markets struggle to industrialize. The abundance of cheap goods that once seemed beneficial now exports fragility. History offers lessons. Britain's coal industry flooded markets in the 19th century, undermining miners. Japan in the 1980s faced overcapacity and deflation. Rome overproduced grain, bankrupting small farmers. Every empire that masters efficiency eventually faces the challenge of self-limitation, knowing when to stop to avoid collapse. Chinese leaders are aware of this. They speak of rebalancing, shifting from investment-driven growth to domestic consumption. But rebalancing takes time. Provinces continue building factories, highways, and industrial zones because incentives reward output. It is like trying to diet while the kitchen keeps cooking. Many overproduced products, particularly solar panels, batteries, and EVs, are essential for the global energy transition. Falling prices and bankruptcies, however, slow innovation. The world enjoys cheap technology, but China bears the cost. Abundance has become a trap. At its core, China suffers from overproductivity. The nation excels at production but lacks balance. Competition, once a driver of wealth, now ensures no one can rest. Production replaces purpose, and progress is measured by how cheaply goods can be made, not by societal needs. Industrial involution has arrived on a national scale. Every empire eventually learns the same lesson. Being too cheap comes at a hidden cost. Systems optimized solely for efficiency erode themselves over time. China's economy demonstrates the dangers clearly. Momentum becomes survival, and survival gradually destroys wealth creation. Output continues, but prosperity diminishes. The question remains, who truly benefits in a race to the bottom? China's model shows that relentless efficiency and overproduction can dominate markets but threaten long-term stability. Cheap abundance, though appealing in the short term, may ultimately be the most costly lesson. China's story serves as a cautionary tale. Industrial success, unchecked by balance and sustainability, can become self-destructive. Growth, efficiency, and production may impress the world, but without careful management, the very system designed to deliver prosperity can trap a nation in its own illusion of endless abundance. History shows that empires rise and fall often for the same reason: Optimizing everything except balance eventually destroys itself.